Forget forget Tottenham. At this rate, we're going to Bromley next year. Hello, everybody. Welcome into episode 60 of the From the Valley Flow podcast. My name is Hamilton. I will be your host, as always. I wish I could come on here and rally the troops and say that we're going to be fine, everything's okay. I can't. I can't do that because at the moment we are a dreadful football team and we're a fragile football club. And my sort of saving grace, I guess I would say, has been the fact that we had a manager who, other than 1 year at Stoke, has predictably kept up and easily kept up a team with barely any budget playing in a ground where you have to climb over people's gardens to get to the away end, right? And I don't use that as a criticism of Luton. They've been in the Premier League more recently than we have, but that's a club that was surprised to get there, that went on this quote unquote journey where he left them twice and then came back, and left them once and came back and then left again. And it was another manager that had to drag them over the finish line. But we are so devoid of anything right now in terms of confidence. And if we go down, and that is possible now, right? That's on the ego of one man. And I can sit here and I can stick my fingers in my ear and I can go, oh no, everything's going to be absolutely fine. Right? If we do not win at Hillsborough on Saturday, there is every possibility that we will be playing at Hayes Lane and MK Dons and Burton next year. And it really is as simple as that. And how we've ended up in this situation is because, well, it's a number of things. Players aren't playing properly, right? When they often do play properly, the manager is making baffling decisions. We've got a crowd that almost seems to revel in getting a rise out of its own manager at times. We've got abuse being thrown at our own players. We've had situations where, for some reason, I don't know why, security's had to take players out after the game. I don't know exactly how we fix this right now. We are the worst team in by form, other than Leicester in the bottom six at the moment. We've lost 4 or 5 home games. We can't keep a clean sheet. We can't score more than 1 goal. We scored more than 1 goal 6 times all season. We played 40-odd games now. We can't finish. We keep it in the post. But then attack players providing assists for players who can't score. And some of the subs and squad decisions, quite frankly, are just baffling. The post-match pressures often don't even sound rooted in reality of what we've actually seen. And so I'd love to sit here on a Sunday morning, talking about this game in a different way, saying, oh, look at, We're safe, we've achieved it, what a great job we've done, all the rest of it. I can't. We've played 16th at home at the time we played them. We played 17th at the time we played them. We played 17th at the time we played them. All at home, needing one win. We haven't got it. We had between home games against Wrexham, Birmingham, Norwich, Bristol City, Preston, North End, and 2 away games, 1 at Oxford and 1 at Watford, right? We need 2 wins from that and maybe 2 draws. We've got 1 win and 1 win and 2 draws, right? This game at Sheffield Wednesday was supposed to be a backstop, and it still is, right? You go to the bottom of the league, you do what you're supposed to do, you beat them, right? They're supposed to be a backstop. They've just gone to Coventry and gotten a point. What the toughest run-in, other than Oxford, of the teams below is, we're helped by the fact that Leicester are absolutely diabolically awful. Right? If Leicester are even functional at the moment, we will be in really, really serious trouble. At the moment, we're just in serious trouble. We've wasted what feels about £15 million worth of transfer fees in the summer. Right? A 1-goal game yesterday. A 1-goal game. Our biggest signing of the summer was a striker. In a 1-goal game, he doesn't come on. Instead, on comes a Luke Berry who can't run anymore. He brings on Leeburn, who's the same as Dykes, so the same player going for the same balls. We've got Matty Godden running around trying to get himself into position. It's not a Matty Godden thing. He's trying to get himself into the right position. Should have had a penalty yesterday. It's another missed decision by a referee. But he's trying to get himself into position, but he's running around looking like a bee buzzing around because nobody else is making the right run or playing the right ball or getting the right thing. We took all of our creative outlets off. We brought a 19-year-old kid on as our first sub, despite the fact we spent 15 million quid. Our second highest transfer fee of the summer is currently on loan at Bolton, unable to get through more than a half because his confidence is so shot. We picked a 19-year-old kid on the bench and a crooked Luke Berry over someone we paid almost £2 million for. We've got our highest paid player, a £20,000 a week goalkeeper, clearly falling out with the manager, who's got a quote-unquote shoulder injury from falling over. So I'm playing a guy who's back up at Cambridge 2 seasons ago. Wasn't his fault yesterday, but he has made mistakes over the past month or so. I've got Amari Bell, who's come back from the international break, an absolute shadow of the footballer he was. Right, I don't know if the disappointment of Jamaica not making the World Cup or what it is, but this is the second game in a row he's allowed his man to run off the back of him. Another £1 million plus signing, a striker who's currently on loan at Stockport, which actually ended up being a pretty useful loan for us because the guy we've actually brought in actually played pretty well yesterday in Jaden February. I'm at the point where I am desperate in a game away at bottom of the league, a historically awful football team. Historically awful. For Connor Cody to come back from being knocked clean out by a football a week ago because we look absolutely rudderless without him. We chop and change every single week. Of course, we don't have any patterns of play. Players don't get to know each other. So we have wastage in transfer fees. If you look through that team yesterday, the only 2 players who played in the Championship last season are JRC, who came off after 60 minutes, and one of the most baffling substitutions I've ever seen at the Valley, and Amari Bell, who was actually crooked for most of last season because his hamstrings went. That's what we have in a relegation run-in. Don't you can stick your fingers in your ears, but we are in a relegation run-in. Hopefully, we're in a relegation run-in just for 1 week, and we beat Sheffield Wednesday and everything's all punky-dory again. But if I were you, I wouldn't have a look at the 3 fixtures that we have following that up. We've got a whole team that needs to win to stay in the playoff spots. We've got an Ipswich team trying to finish second so it gets automatic promotion and wants revenge for us going to Portman Road and demolishing them for 15 minutes. And then we've got Swansea, who would love nothing more than on their ground to relegate our Cardiff boy manager. Right? And Millwall with nothing to play for. Right? On the final day, play Oxford. You think they're going to want to give us a hand? How about this? There is a world in which Millwall play Palace in the Premier League next year and we play Bromley in League One. Not a thing on Bromley. They've done a fantastic job. Fair play to them. A really well-run football club. But what has happened to our football club over the last month is pretty unforgivable. 8 games, 6 points, 7 points maybe needed. We've taken 5. Right? And I just spent 11 minutes going on about all the problems that we have at the moment. And I haven't even mentioned the abuse that Tyree Campbell again gets coming off the pitch. Right? Should have had 3 assists in the first 20 minutes if our players could put the ball in the back of the blooming net. Should have had an assist last week when Doc hit the post. Right? We talk about output and all the numbers aren't there. Well, it's hard to do that when your players can't score from 6 blooming yards. So, we've ended up in a world where Scapegrace and the players actually producing, right? And the same energy isn't there for others who aren't. For 20 minutes there, we pushed 2 wing backs high. We played our ball carriers and our ball progressors, and we penned Preston North End deep in their own half. And their fans were getting annoyed. They were getting upset. They were getting frustrated. The team that hasn't won a game away from home since the 3rd of blooming January, right? And we pushed them deep. Score, we couldn't score, and then we finally did after 18 minutes. But we should have had 3 or 4 at that point, right? It is the best football we probably played all season, barring that 15-minute spell at Ipswich, right? It was fantastic. Tactically, he was spot on. What does he do? Moment after he scored the goal, handbrake, pull. Gareth Southgate-esque from the Euro final. Predictably, 5 minutes later, Preston score a goal. It's a crap goal to concede. It's a great header. Fair play to Dobbin, right? But we don't do loans in the Premier League. That's our policy, right? We've got the kids here. Look at the difference between Dobbin and Fuller yesterday, right? Dobbin has experience. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but their main creative outlet has got a wonderful looping header. The creative outlet we brought on, and I don't mean this to attack Ibby, it's not his fault, right? Lose the ball at the top of his own box in a place where they tell you do not lose the ball there because it's 1 ball in behind. And it's because he's young, he's trying to create things, he's trying to do things in the game, and I respect that. But we've now given up all of our sort of buffer. Yeah, we remain 5 points because somehow we remain 18th. Thanks to Blackburn having a worse goal difference than us. But just look at the form around us. It's like being in a car stuck. We can't move it. And all we need to do is move half a mile forward and we're there. It's like we've blown the engine out completely. But he puts that handbrake on. They score. They dominate the second part of that second half. The moment that goal went in, the body language from our players was awful. Everybody's shoulders drooped, head dropped. So you go in at half-time, you get to half-time, and despite the fact they dominated, they actually didn't create a heck of a lot in the second part of that first half. You think, okay, don't do anything stupid here. If you can't win the game, don't lose it. But you think, come out with some energy, see if you can get back on top. We come out flat. We come out in that same stodgy 5 at the back with no pressing high, no energy, as we always do after half-time in home games, right? So for another 10 minutes, we're flat. So he makes a change. So he brings JRC off, who was basically our best outlet in that game. Right? And I get it, he hasn't played a heck of a lot of football, but the manager hasn't played him in a heck of a lot of games. So, But he comes off and he brings a 19-year-old on. I paid 1.8 million quid from a guy who was the top scorer in midfield in League One last year, and he can't even get on the bench over a 19-year-old kid who's playing academy football last year. And the manager's response to that was basically, "Oh, if I hadn't picked Luke Berry, you would have asked where he was." No, I wouldn't have. Nor would any rational thinking person have asked that. Maybe except for Luke Berry's wife. But he brings on a 19-year-old kid, and as I said, I feel for Fuller, but it's the second time he's made the same mistake. Loses the ball, top of the box, he's too weak. They play one ball through. Greg Docherty's not where he's supposed to be. Murray Bell loses his man. Potts goes through, taps it in the bottom corner. We're 2-1 down. We go through the same blooming motions where we attack for 20 minutes, don't, create a couple of little bits. Should have had a penalty. Seems to be a weekly occurrence now. Don't get it. And we don't score. How many times can you do the same thing over and over and over again? We pull the handbrake until the last 15 minutes of the game. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. It may have worked in League One. It doesn't work at this level. Right, with the players that you have. You want to win the moments. That's great. We don't have the players to win the moments. I trust Jefferson and Dobbin over our front two any day of the week to win a moment. And they were 16th before we played them. That's why we are where we are. Right? It doesn't help you address them when you've got a manager falling out with 4 players in 5 months. Right? It doesn't help you've got a manager, and I actually defend it, and I actually don't mind it if he's losing his mind over defending his own player. Right? In Tyrese Campbell when he comes off the pitch. But goodness gracious me, in the middle of a game? Right? You have to show professionalism. I don't like what the crowds shout. I come on here all the time and say a lot of times, it's scapegoating. Stop it. It's our kid. Right? And he was not the problem yesterday. By 55 minutes, he's blowing. But you left him on for another 20 minutes. So of course it looks like he's being lazy. You're playing him at left back again. We've all said it doesn't work when he plays left back. You play him there again. Go to a back 4 and play Bell as your left back. He can do that in a 4. Right? I can't understand the rationale for most of the decisions that were made yesterday. I can't understand how we've wasted the amount of money that we've wasted, and yet we still have post-match press conferences. We go, well, we have a low budget. We have a low budget because you've wasted it. How do we get rid of some of these contracts if we go down? I've got a goalkeeper on 20 grand a week. I cannot get rid of the contract, even in the Championship. I was just reading today, someone coming, oh, we know the goalkeeper's not Championship quality. We know this player's not Championship quality. They're on Championship contracts. How do you propose we get rid of them? Statistically, by the way, it's not true that the goalkeeper's not Championship quality, but, who cares? Let's do some more scapegoating. But we had an opportunity to take all of the pressure off that game on Saturday. Now, all of it's on it. I think Pedersen, the Sheffield Wednesday coach, isn't going to sit there with a whiteboard and go, look at West Brom, look at Charlton, look at Oxford. Right? You can make their seasons a misery if you show up. There are a lot of young kids at Sheffield Wednesday who play really, really hard. They've got an excellent goalkeeper. Right? How many saves did Everson have to make yesterday? None. 1. Right? At least against Bristol City, Vitek had to make that great save off Godden. But Ivanovic had none really to make for Norwich. Okonkwo had 1 great save to make for Wrexham. But why did JRC come off in that game when he was playing well? Because he wanted to keep on a completely ineffective Sonny Carey, who Mark Drury is absolutely right. I don't know if he's in the comments, because I keep them off whilst I'm doing the monologue. But when he's not scoring goals. He is not impacting games. He did it yesterday where he ran and ran and ran and ran with the ball. He needs to release it, doesn't release it. But every single game, we are chopping and changing the lineup. We're changing something here. We're changing something there. Someone's injured. Someone's not in the right place. Someone's annoyed the manager. Someone's not trained well. The last couple of months in League One, we all knew what that starting 11 was every single week. But we are rudderless, absolutely directionless. We looked better against Watford. Why? Because Connor Cody played. Right? So we're going to have to. If I were in charge of this, I would go to the manager. You are playing every single championship experience player that you have. I don't care if Reece-Burke rips his hamstring in half. He's playing because he's got the experience. If we play a bunch of players with no championship experience away at Sheffield Wednesday in a must-win game, I have a horrible feeling we are going to crumble. But that game yesterday wasn't about Preston North End being wonderful, although Heckingbottom absolutely got his tactics spot on after he saw that we sat back. Right? I'd argue Preston didn't create a hell of a lot. Who cares? They scored twice. But we're in the situation we're in because of decisions that we've made collectively as a football club. And I don't know if we need more oversight of Nathan Jones's man management. If Rodwell needs to be sacked, I would do that. Whether we need to have more oversight over the money he's spending. Joshua Freeman was there yesterday. I can't imagine he'll be massively impressed. Right? But you can have a big, massive ego when you win games, as we always do in the post-match presser. I set them up to do this. I set them up to do that. I set them up to do this. I got us up. But then when we lose, it's, we don't have the quality. We don't have the players. We didn't have the... Take some responsibility. Take some responsibility. Tactically, you've been outdone by Clement, Parkinson, Hodgson. 72-yard Hodgson came and tactically outdid us. It's a 76-year-old Hodgson, isn't it? Heckingbottom. I'd argue Oxford had the better of it. And I can see his face, and I can't remember his name. He was Wickham and Luton manager. It'll come to me later. Right? He probably got Ed Still to a draw. I didn't even know Will Still's brother was a coach. That's why we are where we are. And so I'm sorry if that's negative to people. I'm sorry if that's, or somebody commented, I'm sorry if that's Mr. Know-It-All to people. That's where I am. And I am worried. I'm worried whether we're going to be a championship side next year. And I'm worried that if we are one, there is no Sheffield Wednesday and there is no Leicester coming down next year. Right? Wolves have basically bought for the championship. They'll probably sell Mateus Mane. They'll probably sell a couple of the higher earners, but they'll be a good championship side. Burnley will be a good championship side. They always are. You know, maybe Spurs. Maybe Spurs completely disintegrate if they come down. We'll see at 2:00 when they play Sunderland. I don't think West Ham are coming down. I was at the game on Friday. Well, Leeds? No, Leeds are always a good championship side if they come down. Do I think Cardiff will crumble in the league? Probably not. Town's always got a moment. Lincoln, they don't really have the money, but they've got a model. Right, Brighton and Brentford didn't have the money when they went up to the Premier League, but had model and it worked. And let's see who comes up via the playoffs. But, you know what, one of Pompey or Oxford will go down. Leicester go down. So Wednesday go down. The only time those teams coming up are going to be any worse. Those teams coming down, you have another Leicester. I think West Brom are going to be as bad next year. You know, do you trust him with £20 million to spend? I don't. It worries me so much that window looked like that Stoke window where he left them with a massive number of high earners sitting on their bench. It took them 2 seasons to recover from those contracts. Anyway, let's take some comments now. Sam saying getting this out of the way. Yeah, I know that's what I'm trying to do. Looking forward to your thoughts. It's not looking forward to the right phrase I would use, mate. Hey, Robert saying we started the game so well, but after we scored, we seemed to lose our momentum. Also, felt we missed Cody yesterday. Yeah, I mean, he put the handbrake on. Should have gone for the second goal to kill it. Decided to sit back. 70 minutes of trying to sit back. It's definitely not the first time we've done this. There's no explanation why we have this mindset. It's tactical. It's intentional. This is the question. Is Nathan now showing his ability in this league? The question is he like the guy at Stoke or is he the guy at Luton? That's the question. I don't know. With us, probably it's somewhere in between at the moment. Stuart, rather be 5 points ahead than 5 points behind. We will be fine. Yeah. I respect your opinion, mate. I don't know where I stand. I mean, I've watched this team for but you say that. It would be the most Charlton thing ever to say we're unbeaten away from a million games and to go to Hillsborough and lose. Our record at Hillsborough is appalling. Right? And I get it, right? You end hoodoos, all the rest of it. But if there was somewhere that we would go and lose, despite not losing for 12 games or whatever it is, or whatever it was, it would be Hillsborough. So it's saying be positive. I should get that one tattooed on my forehead. Get that one tattooed on my forehead. Put Bell down to being knackered. He's played 90 minutes every game since coming back. Lloyd is carrying another injury yet again. Yeah, Lloyd going down. The thing with Lloyd is he's such a physical player. He's much like Josh Edwards actually in this sense. He's such a physical player. He just isn't. He's just always going to get hurt, right? That just naturally is going to get hurt because he throws himself at people. And when you throw yourself at people, ultimately, a lot of time, and especially at this level, there's a lot of big lads who throw it back at you, right? So you're always going to kind of get hurt. It's sort of your more, technical centre backs that probably don't. So I think that's actually a very reasonable comment. Next season we should have a clear out and then rebuild with a 3-pronged approach. Youth, Mick, Goff, Fuller, 2 quality pencil striker midfield. Look internationally. I don't think Fuller's ready for this, and that's not a criticism of him. He was playing academy football last year. He's not ready, right? Goff actually I think's been okay. To be fair to him, he came in a tough run in November. I don't think it was his fault. Yeah. So, but the Prem lanes we have to get some in. We have to get some actual creative quality in because we have no creativity. One of the things I will note is anyone notice that when JRC plays, how much better Tyrese Campbell looks. He's got an option to play the ball back to. Right, he can give and go, make a triangle. Right, we don't create triangles because we don't have anyone that will sit up there. Right, it's not Carey's game. Carey's not a passer in that way. Doc's not playing high enough to do that. And again, it's not his game. And Coventry is basically on his own halfway line. So you've got to give your creative outlet someone to play off, other than just ending up in double teams. You know, second half, we were double teamed again as soon as JRC came off. You can see he came off and Tyrese Campbell's shoulder slumped. He knows it. Sam saying, let's say 5 players in 5 months is not once to come and get told to warm up. Technically, I don't understand that. Dykes and Leeburn both came on chasing the same ball. They're the same striker, right? Obviously, one's better than the other, but they're the same striker. Why? Why do that? I don't understand. And that's not a defensive trade coming to some great striker. I just don't understand. It sums the waste up, right? What's he on a 4-year contract? How are we going to get rid of that contract? 6 goals in the championship. There are games which are completely ineffective, but I just don't understand why you can't get. And the main issue with the TC scapegoating is when he loses the ball, his effects go and chase back. By the end, he was knackered. That's why he was absolutely blowing. That's why I wasn't chasing back. You can see it. You can see it because he goes over his haunches. Right. My thing is if do I want my winger chasing up and down the wing like a madman? No, not really. I want the focusing on doing things in the forward bit. And as I say, he should have had 2 or 3 assists yesterday. We wouldn't be having this conversation, but we can't finish. Bloomfield, that's what I was looking for, the coach. Thank you, Stuart. I just couldn't remember off the top of my head. Um, Agree. I didn't understand that Costello change. Should have done the swap for Fuller instead of Carey. I mean, yeah, you could have done, but do you want to take your top scorer off with half an hour to play that with the counter argument? I just this the Berry one is the one that's absolutely mystifying. Yeah, if Nathan hasn't brought the whole squad on board and they're not working today, I'm going to be mad. Yeah, I think that we've got a week now. I think you do give the players a day. Actually, I think you send them home with a very, very strong message in the dressing room of you're not safe. Right? We need a win. And I think he said that he did pass that on. That's the most important thing. Yeah, but you send them home to think, right? You send them home to think about it, right? And then you bring them in on Monday and you do high intensity sort of training sessions ahead of Saturday. That's what I would do. And I would, as I say, I would make sure that I've got. I would make sure that I've got. I'd make sure I've got all my experienced players in. Right, you need your experience. Yeah, Hodgson's 78, so I think I said what I say 76. He's 78, and then I think it's obvious that some of the signs weren't Nathan Jones, Abdul Rafe, Kelman being examples. But where is the proof for that, Stuart? I keep hearing this from people. Right, Kelman came in and basically played for 3 months. Right, even through a bad patch, he still tried to play him through it. So I'm not entirely sure with this thing of he's not his player. Right, they banged on about them chatting before the playoff final. Right? I don't understand where some where some of these things are. He called them my signings. You know, at some point, it's like being the CEO of a company. You have to take responsibility for it. Right? If you really, really didn't want a player as a manager, you say, I don't want that player. Right? What was he trying to do? Go and buy Adebayo with half a knee or something? Right? What they did with Chanto is they tried to identify someone who looked a bit like the way that Adebayo plays. Right, and I'm still very much of the opinion he didn't get on yesterday, and I think that was smart from Heckingbottom not to get the crowd back into it after they killed it. But losing Cherry Small is a far bigger loss than I think people realise in terms of um in terms of actual setup. It just seems obvious in the way he hasn't played in the mid-1. Sammy Kaminsky wasn't his signing. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is Callum did play for 3 months. Right? Abter did play for 4 weeks and 5 weeks and whatever, and then he did bring him back for the whole game. And then he brought him back again a little bit later. He went back for Southampton. It was Southampton that really killed the Apter thing. As I say, I think Tanto was just someone they thought looked a bit like Adebayo does at Luton, right? And they thought we need to sign someone. I think if Adebayo doesn't do his ACL last year, one, I don't know if Luton go down, but two, if they had gone down anyway, I think Nathan Jones would have signed him like that. Right, I'm going to call it there. Sorry, it's not a more uplifting sort of show. I know that Charlton Live wasn't uplifting. I know that Corley's podcast wasn't uplifting. But it's hard to feel uplifted at the moment. I could have a look through Stuart's comments. Stuart's more positive than me, and I respect that. I always respect, Stuart, Sam, Tommy, you, and Robert. Your sort of your really informed comments, and I appreciate you all coming on with me. But yeah, I wish I felt differently to the way I do, but at the moment, the reason why so many of these sorts of shows are negative is because that's how it feels. That's how it feels. That's some reference to Nathan. Thought he was Southampton gaffer and got him relegated. He didn't get him relegated. He took a poison chalice. He just was very weird to start for him. They didn't like him. They just didn't like the cut of his jib at all. But we'll end with a Stuart thing. We've got positivity here. I'll leave this on for a second. But thanks for joining me. I'll be on the Chronicles later. I think I'm actually off to talk about Luton. I'm actually off to the Virtual Trophy final this afternoon. In the Luton end with Pool B. But yeah, I'll be on the Chronicles later. I'm sure I will not have calmed down. Sunday, Monday, happy days. And see you all soon. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye for now.